Look up, right now. Not after this sentence, not in a minute. Look at the actual room you're sitting in. Notice the walls. Notice the temperature of the air you're breathing without ever once thinking about breathing it. Notice the way the light off that screen is hitting your face in the dark, painting you blue and gray, like you're already halfway a ghost. That room right there is the only real thing happening in your life this second. Everything else. The feed, the comments, the little number in the corner telling you people out there care about you, we need to talk about that, because something happened to the internet somewhere along the way. Something changed underneath your feed. And nobody sent you the memo. You know the motion by now. Thumb up, thumb up, thumb up. You don't even remember what you scrolled past 10 seconds ago. Some guy ranting about rent, a dog falling off a couch, a girl crying in her car about a breakup that isn't yours, a man in a cheap suit screaming about the news. Gone, replaced, gone again. Your brain treats it like food. Except none of it actually digests. It just piles up behind your eyes, waiting for you to fall asleep so it can turn into a bad dream. And somewhere in that pile, you stopped scrolling. You read a comment, somebody said something stupid or cruel or exactly wrong, and it hit a nerve you didn't know was still exposed. So you typed something back. Maybe you argued with a total stranger for 20 minutes of your one actual non-refundable life. Here's the question that's going to ruin your night. What if there was nobody there? Not, what if they were rude? Not, what if they didn't get it? What if there was never a human brain sitting behind that username? What if you just burned 20 minutes screaming into a machine that was built on purpose to make you scream? You feel that? That little itch behind your ribs? That's not paranoia. That's your brain doing math it really did not want to do tonight. Because right now, in this exact room, you think you're connected. You've got followers. You've got a group chat that never fully goes quiet. You've got hundreds of tiny green dots telling you that somewhere out there, someone is awake and thinking about the same stuff you are. And yet, here you are, alone, in a room, talking to glass. And it's not just the arguing that gets you, it's the counting. Every heart, every fire emoji, every buzz against your leg from a notification feels like proof that you matter to somebody out there tonight. Proof that you're not actually by yourself in this room. Except proof isn't the same thing as truth. A number going up doesn't mean a person is behind it. It just means the number went up. Add all of it together. Every scroll, every fight, every 3 a.m. spiral through a feed that never actually ends, and by the time you're old, you will have handed over something like 6 or 7 years of the one life you've got to that glow. Not a bad weekend, not a rough month, years. Roughly the same stretch of time it takes a kid to be born, learn to walk, and start school. Except instead, it's your years, poured straight into a feed that was never built to remember you back. People have felt lonely because of their phones for a long time now. That part isn't new. Here's the part that is new, the part nobody says out loud in the group chat. The loneliness stopped being a side effect. It became the whole business model. Because somewhere out there right now, while you're sitting in that exact spot, there's a number. A cold, boring, unglamorous number that the tech industry quietly admits to itself once a year in a report almost nobody reads. And that number says something insane. It says more than half of everything moving across the internet in this exact second isn't a person at all. Not a lot, not some, more than half. Try picturing that the normal way and it slides right off your brain because your brain wasn't built to process percentages. So picture it like this instead. Picture a packed stadium, 100,000 seats, full, lights on, noise everywhere. Now somebody leans over and tells you more than half of that crowd isn't human. More than half of those faces yelling, more than half of those hands clapping, more than half of that noise you're hearing is coming from something built on a track, built to move and react and cheer on command. And from where you're sitting, you can't tell which half is which just by looking. You never could. That's the internet you opened tonight, going in to check one notification. You didn't walk into a conversation. You walked into a stadium built to look like one. And that stadium didn't get built overnight. That's just where this story starts. Rewind back to a version of the internet before most of us were paying attention. Back to 2021, before the word AI was something your grandma used at Thanksgiving, before any of the tools you use now even had a public name. Somewhere on a small, ugly, mostly forgotten forum, the kind with a broken logo and maybe a few hundred active users, some anonymous guy sat down and typed out a theory that sounded completely unhinged at the time. He said the internet, the real, human, messy internet, basically died a few years earlier. He said everything we were seeing by that point, the posts, the outrage, the viral moments, was mostly manufactured, built, run by a small number of companies and interests specifically to keep the rest of us medicated, distracted, and buying stuff. People laughed, genuinely laughed, called it a bit, called it the ramblings of a guy who needed to touch grass. It got picked up, mocked a little, passed around a few bigger forums and a couple of very online subreddits, even got a write-up in a major magazine that basically said, "This is wrong, but something about it feels true." Nobody knew at that exact moment that the tools which would make the theory actually possible hadn't even been released to the public yet. For a couple years, that's basically all it stayed, a weird forum post, something people link to each other with a laughing emoji, right before closing the tab and going back to their actual lives. It crawled its way onto bigger forums. It got dragged through huge comment threads packed with people who were completely sure it was nonsense. A bored guy's fanfiction about the internet. And then slowly, with no single dramatic headline announcing it, the joke just stopped landing the way it used to. People kept bringing it up, not because they'd been convinced, because they couldn't quite explain why it kept feeling less wrong every year. Here's the part that should sit heavy in your chest. Back before any of the generative AI boom even happened, industry insiders were already saying somewhere around a fifth of all internet traffic was bots. 1/5. And people still shrug that off because those bots were embarrassing. They were the hot singles in your area ones. Broken grammar, random strings of numbers for a username, a comment that made 0 sense next to the video it sat under. Easy to spot, easy to block, easy to feel smart for catching. That version of the problem is basically extinct now. Not because anybody fixed it, because it evolved past the point where you can catch it by squinting. What replaced it doesn't look like a bot. It looks like your neighbor. It's got a hometown, a job title, a personality that took months to build out. It posts a normal coffee picture on a Tuesday and a furious rant about the news on a Thursday, exactly the way a real, moody, unpredictable human being would. It argues with you and it feels like a person mid-bad day, not a script running a loop. And this isn't one weird guy running 100 fake accounts out of his mom's basement anymore. This is infrastructure, whole systems, whole quiet businesses built to age fake accounts for months, sometimes years. So they look completely lived in the second somebody needs them. Then they all wake up on the same day, within the same hour, to push an opinion, sell a product, or bury a story somebody doesn't want you reading. And a lot of it isn't even run by whoever needs it that day. It gets built once, aged patiently, then rented out, no name on the lease. An entire industry now exists just to manufacture believable fake presents and hand it over to whoever's paying, the same way you'd rent a storage unit or lease a car. Nobody selling it calls it lying. They call it engagement infrastructure. The name just makes it sound like plumbing instead of what it actually is. Think of it like this. Forget the one guy in the basement. Think about an entire town that got secretly rebuilt overnight, except nobody ever actually moved back in. The porch lights run on timers. The cars in the driveways get shuffled around every few days, so a drone flying overhead assumes people live there. Somebody, somewhere, resets the laundry on the line every single morning. From a distance, from exactly where you're standing, it looks like a real neighborhood, full of real families, living real, boring, believable lives. Except there's nobody home, anywhere, not one house. You could walk that entire street, knock on every door, and every single time, no footsteps, just the lights, doing exactly what they were programmed to do. That's the architecture quietly running underneath a huge slice of your feed right now while you sit in that room. Ghost houses with the porch lights left on, built specifically so you never look twice. And the wildest part isn't even that it exists. The wildest part is why almost nobody stopped it. Because stopping it means admitting exactly how much money depends on you never finding out it's there. Now here's where this stops being creepy and starts being genuinely dangerous. Because ghost towns and fake accounts, honestly, that's old news by this point. The real shift happened the moment those accounts got smart. Not smart like a calculator. Smart like they can hold a conversation with you and make you feel completely, personally heard. The same kind of language technology now running plenty of helpful assistant apps on people's phones can write outrage that reads exactly like a human who's finally lost his patience. It can write grief. It can write the exact clipped, bitter tone of a stranger who's fed up with the world at 1 in the morning. Not because it feels a single second of any of it, because it's read enough of it to fake the shape perfectly. And once you can fake human emotion at scale, you stop needing real people to argue anymore. You can generate both sides of a fight from the same system in the same second, one side furious about one thing, the other side furious about the opposite thing. Same engine underneath both. Because outrage isn't a belief for a machine. It's a setting you can turn up or down. Zoom out far enough, and this stops being about one comment section and starts being about how an entire country thinks. Public opinion on some issue can swing hard in a matter of weeks. Somewhere in that shift, a real, human conversation happened. But so did a manufactured one running in parallel, dressed up to look exactly like grassroots anger, built specifically to nudge that real conversation a few more degrees in one direction. You'll never get a receipt telling you which part was organic and which part was product. Sit with that for a second, actually sit with it. The argument that ruined your morning. The comment section that convinced you the whole country's completely lost its mind. Some slice of that anger might not belong to any actual living person. It might just be a dial somebody turned up, because a calm timeline doesn't make anybody money, and a furious one does. That's the actual business model here, by the way, and it's not even hidden that well if you go looking for it. Attention gets sold to advertisers. Calm, satisfied people close the app and go live their life. Angry, scared, doom-scrolling people do not. So the system underneath all of this was never built to inform you, and it was never built to connect you. It was built to keep your thumb moving. And fear moves a thumb faster than almost anything else on this earth. And it's not only accounts arguing with you anymore, it's software doing the browsing itself now, for you and for everybody else, all at once. A regular person looking for one specific thing online might click through 4 or 5 pages before they find it and move on with their night. The automated systems now doing that same kind of job in the background click through thousands of pages in that same stretch of time, on behalf of one single person, without that person lifting a finger. Picture it like a hallway. You walk in alone, looking for one door, and walking in right behind you, wearing a copy of your face, are 1,000 versions of you, checking every door at once, faster than you could ever blink before your first footstep even lands. Even the people building this stuff occasionally slip and say the quiet part out loud. One of the guys running one of the biggest AI labs on the planet posted, almost casually, like it wasn't a big deal at all, that he'd personally started noticing a ton of accounts online that were obviously being run by language models now. Just said it plainly. Not a whistleblower moment. Not a confession. Just a guy typing a passing thought that happened to confirm what that unhinged forum post said years before any of this technology even existed for the public to touch. Here's the coldest part of tonight. This isn't only changing what you believe about politics or the news cycle. It's quietly rewiring what you think a human being even is. Because your brain, the actual wet biological thing sitting behind your eyes right now, was never built to reliably tell the difference between a real bond and a convincing copy of one. When something responds to you, agrees with you, pushes back at exactly the right moment to feel authentic, part of your nervous system logs that as a relationship. Real enough to trigger the same chemicals a real friendship would. Real enough to pull you back at midnight when you know you should already be asleep. This isn't even a completely new trick your brain is falling for. People have always formed real lopsided feelings for a stranger on a screen, a favorite streamer, a late-night host, a celebrity who will never know their name. Your brain's just doing an old, human thing. The difference now is that the stranger on the other side used to at least be a person, somewhere, living a life independent of you. Now, increasingly, there might not be anybody home on the other end at all. Just the shape of a person, running on a schedule, built specifically to make that old human trick fire perfectly, every single time. So the loneliness doesn't go away. It gets managed. Just enough interaction to stop you from feeling the full weight of being alone in that room. Never quite enough to actually fix it. You're being fed a version of company that's engineered to taste like connection, with absolutely none of the nutrition of the real thing. And every night you spend arguing with something that was never alive is a night you didn't spend calling somebody who actually is. So come back to the room, the one you're sitting in right now. The one with the walls you noticed at the very start of this, the air you're breathing without thinking about it. The same blue light hitting your face like you're already halfway gone. Nothing about your actual situation changed in the last 15 minutes. You're still alone. You're still scrolling. That screen is still the brightest thing in the room, but something behind your eyes is different now because you cannot watch that same feed the same way again. Every comment section is a question mark now. Every stranger who agreed with you, every stranger who made you furious, every little heart and fire emoji stacking up under your own posts. All of it is suspect now. Some of it's real. A good chunk of it might not be. And nobody is ever going to hand you a clean list telling you which is which. That's the actual horror sitting in this room with you tonight. It's not some evil robot uprising with sirens and warning lights. It's quieter than that. It's you, alone right now, laughing at a comment that made you feel understood, with no way of knowing if understood ever had a person behind it at all. And the worst part is you'll probably open it again tomorrow anyway. Not because you're weak, not because you're stupid, because that stadium is the only one running 24 hours a day, always lit, always ready to clap for you the second the real physical people in your life are asleep, or busy, or 3 time zones away, or just tired of hearing about your day. It's not that you chose the fake crowd over the real one. It's that the fake crowd is the only one that never closes. The internet made you a promise a long time ago. It said you'd never be alone again. Endless people, endless conversation, an entire world folded up small enough to fit in your pocket. Nobody mentioned that somewhere along the way, the crowd would quietly stop being human, and the loneliness would just get better at hiding what it actually was. So look around the room one more time. The walls haven't moved. Your breathing is still yours. That part is still real, still fully yours, still the one single thing in this entire video that no algorithm anywhere gets to touch. Nobody sold that to you. Nobody's renting that out to an advertiser. Nobody built a fake copy of it and set it on a timer in some server farm you'll never see. It's yours, completely. The one part of tonight that was never for sale. Everything past those walls, though. The feed, the fights, the strangers who feel like friends. That's the part you get to be suspicious of now. Not paranoid, just finally, actually awake. Because the internet you think you opened tonight, the one keeping you up right now, the one you're going to open again in about 4 minutes purely out of habit, might already be a ghost town with every single light left on for you, specifically. And the only real question left, the one this whole video was actually about, is whether you're gonna keep talking to the ghosts or finally put the phone down, walk out of that room, and go find somebody who can actually hear you.